welcome. We have some special guests with us today, and this is also our first video version of the podcast. So if you're listening on like Apple or Spotify, just listening to the audio, if you wanted to, you can go to Make Your Best Relationships YouTube channel. We will start a playlist there for our podcast here. And today, like I said, we have special guests, my beautiful wife, JC, and you can see how lovely she is now. Instead of just listening to her lovely voice, you get to see her. But she's joined me again today for the second time. And then we have the Sidwell family. This is Nick and Sarah. Oh. And just a little bit about you guys. You guys have been married for 17 years, right? Is that right?
Almost 18.
Almost 18. Wow. When's the big day?
In August 7th.
August. Oh, yeah, that's right. We both of us were married in August. It's a good month. And you have
a good month.
It's a good month. You have 3 kids, right? Boys, girls, what?
Correct.
Tell us about your kids a little bit.
They're all girls.
All girls.
All girls. Yep. We few people ask us like, when are you going to try for a boy? And we always say, well, we did 3 times. No, but we love them. They're the loves of our life, and
lots of princesses, lots of pink,
princesses,
lots of pink, and lots of ballet.
Yeah.
Oh, so yeah. That's awesome. And so tell us a little bit about yourself. Maybe what do you do for work? You guys have a business together, is that right?
That's right. We run a clinic. It's called Ability Innovations, and it just kind of started out little, and then it kept growing and growing and growing until it's pretty hopping now, and we're busy, and it's been kind of a fun ride to do together.
Yeah. Cool. So that's most of our day, every day is working together, and if it's not working at the clinic, it's working at home.
Yeah.
So
how long ago did you guys start your business?
So Nick started it by himself, just doing his own occupational therapy, about part-time about 3 years ago.
3 or 4 years ago, yeah.
And then we opened Ability Innovations in January of 2020.
Yeah, 2020, and then
so
wow.
A year.
And then we had to shut everything down right as we were getting good.
Wow.
But we made it through COVID, and it's still hopping. Yeah. So we had even a lot of growth last year, and it was great.
Yeah,
it's incredible.
Awesome. We have a really
great.
We have a really great population of people that we're able to serve, and it's just been super fulfilling for both of us.
Yeah, it's been really good.
Cool. And it sounds like you guys still like working together.
Yeah.
Still enjoy each other's company, right?
We're kind of worried about that, like knowing if that was gonna like hurt the marriage in some way. But honestly, like we
kind of feel like it's maybe even in a way strengthened it.
Yeah, it's been a good ride for both of us because we've learned a lot about each other, and counting each other as business partners has added new dynamic to our relationship. It's been a positive thing.
Yeah, we've had to learn different things about our relationship, but ultimately I think one of the things we've learned the most is that we can count on each other. And you have to be able to do that in a business relationship as well. So, yeah.
And there's times where we have to ebb and flow. Like I get really busy and I have to have Sarah help with some things, and Sarah has to run things by me. And so there's that dynamic is very much a back and forth kind of relationship as well, which is also, I think one of the best things is that I get to see Sarah every day at work, where before she wasn't part of that world at all. Like we were just, I go to work, she stays home, or she goes to work and I stay home, and now we get to go to work together sometimes. It's kind of neat.
So that's interesting. So you kind of see each other all day is what it sounds like. At work, you see each other at home, you go to bed together, you wake up together, you go to work together, all day.
Well, that actually sounds nice. It's not quite like that. Nick's super busy seeing kids. Okay. So I work in the office and he is doing therapy all day.
Mm-hmm.
And
and it's not every day that we're together in the office, but it's a lot more than.
But we at least get to see each other. Like,
Yeah.
hey, how's your day going? Like.
Give her a hug at work. It's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So you don't get sick of each other. I was gonna say, how do you not get sick of each other? Too much of each other. Is that such a thing? But
well, yeah, I mean, it's been good because I mean, like you go to work and you don't see your wife until you get home, and that's pretty typical, but when you see each other at work, it's delightful.
Yeah.
So
it's fun.
It's kind of cool.
That is cool. That's cool. So what if we go back in the past? How did you guys meet? How did you get together? What made you decide that you wanted to seal the deal, hook up, get married, move in together? What tell us a little bit about that.
Okay.
Well, I would start with we had a mutual friend that introduced us. We were down in Cedar City at SUU, Southern Utah University. And we were at, I think it was an institute class, like a fireside. And we were just introduced to each other, and our friend left.
She
and
told
said,
me,
I'll be right back.
Yeah, I'll be right back.
And then we sat down together because it was starting. And I knew right when I met Sarah, I was like, oh my gosh, this is the girl I'm going to marry. I just knew right off, but obviously I wasn't going to tell her that.
Smart.
She packed up all of her things and left.
Yes.
But so I mean, I kind of saw my future life flash before my eyes, and I thought, this is the girl. Like, I got to get to know this girl. I got to become her friend. And I think that's how we started. I don't even think Sarah knew that I liked her, but I knew from day one. So I think she was waiting for a missionary, and she wasn't even looking for a relationship, but I gradually just weaseled my way in there. So.
Yeah.
Oh. Okay, so tell us real quick, you're waiting for a missionary. For those who aren't religious or familiar with the culture of Utah, what does that even mean, real quick? And then we'll go right to what you were saying, Sarah. Sorry for interrupting.
Sure. So I was dating someone a guy I had dated for a couple years, had left on an LDS mission, and I was going to school, but my heart was already taken. I was waiting for him while he was on his mission, but
for 2 years they serve, and then when he came home, she was planning on marrying.
Yeah. So in fact, when Nick and I were just hanging out as friends, and I would tell him about this missionary, I said one time, I'm like, you should come to my wedding when I get married.
He said, I'll be there.
Right? Yeah.
He ended up coming to your wedding.
He did.
And I did. I went to her wedding.
I had no idea that he liked me at that point, and he was like, I'm not coming to your wedding. If you marry him, I'm not coming. And I was like, why? That's so mean. We're like best friends. You should come to my wedding. And yeah. So anyway, yeah, we were friends.
That was like the ultimate friend zoning.
Yeah.
But I still stuck in with that.
I think
and it turned out well.
Yeah.
It did.
I think God kind of gave him that experience right away to know that like he had to be patient with me and
persevere.
Yeah, because I kind of was just preoccupied. Yeah.
And a lot of my roommates wanted to date her, and I had to like weed through some of them too. I hope none of them are listening right now, but they might, because anyway. But yeah, I just decided first on, like, I've got to become her friend, and we got to just take things slow, because I fully anticipated to wait until her boyfriend on a mission came home after the 2 years, and I would have to ride that whole wave. But the more time that we spent together, the more we knew it was just kind of meant to be. We just knew that we were going to end up together, and then we became more than friends and started dating exclusively. And that brings us to one of the things that we thought has really, as we were talking about preparing for this this podcast, we were talking about what's one of the things that really has changed our relationship. And that is, when I was on a mission in Mexico, we used to have this kind of thing that I did with one of my companions where we we said, you know, this happened today and this happened today, and I really appreciate you because we were able to do this together, or this was really great today. And so I wanted to implement that with Sarah. And so even when we were dating, before we even got engaged, really, we started sharing 3 things each night that we loved about each other, that we appreciated about each other. And we have done that every night since. Even last night, we always say 3 things that we love about each other from that day. And little things, just like, I'm grateful that you took out the garbage because I was putting it off and you just went and did it. So thank you. Or they could be really significant, like, I was having a really bad day and you really lifted me up. Like, came home to you and you changed everything with your smile and your compassion. So there's, you know, it's changed throughout the years, but it makes you pause and think too about what's a few reasons each day that really bond you together each day. So.
Yeah, and we've done it for so long that you're kind of noticing the things that he does. I notice the things he does for me, and then also it kind of the things he'll say, like, oh, I love you because of this, then I'm like, oh, kind of like when you're talking about love languages or things like that, I'm like, oh, that meant, like, he noticed that or he took that as love. He read that as love. He felt it as love. So I can continue to share love that way because that's what he noticed.
I should say that is so cool because you're communicating, you're discovering love languages about yourselves. You're using these words of affirmation, and maybe that's not your primary love language, right? I'm sure. Are you familiar with the love languages by Dr. Chapman?
Yeah.
And we don't, a lot of relationships, people get together, you know, the hormones are raging. You want to touch each other, you want to give it to each other, you want to serve each other, all those nice things. And then when you get married, you start drifting off into that monotony of, you know, I know you, you know me, we're just cool together. Maybe we might even be enduring each other, you know, and that becomes a problem. But the fact that you guys are being proactive, we on this channel, we promote a lot of taking proactive measures in your life to create your life. Because if you're just letting life happen to you, then you're just getting whatever's coming to you. But there are things that we can influence in our lives. There are things that we can control. And when we're proactive about those things, then we can create the life, or we can create the relationship that we want to have. And that's a two-way street. So just like you guys are doing, JC and I, we kind of took us different. We're very opposite. You know, she's kind of quiet. I'm very boisterous, and her love language is touch. My love language is words of affirmation, things like that. And for the beginning of our relationship, that was really hard for us to figure out. And a lot of couples don't get past that. So it's really cool that, for one, you did that before you even sealed the deal. And in a way, you created these boundaries. You knew what you were going after. You weren't wondering about each other and just, you know, shooting in the dark, trying to please each other after you've sealed the deal. And that's really cool. That's really cool. Thank you for sharing.
It's like such a small thing, right? Like it's just this little thing that you do each day, but it's really become an important part of our relationship. Yeah.
That's really neat that you've kept it up and done it every day for so long. Were there ever any times when you like just for a day or two even you just,
or you get in a fight and you're just mad at each other?
We'll be on vacation and exhausted, and maybe we don't do it, but even after a fight, like you've said, even after a fight, we're like,
sometimes it can just be like, I love you for tabling this right now. You know, like, or I love you today because you're willing to talk through the hard things, which are really not fun to talk about. And that's usually one that Nick says to me a lot. I'm kind of the withdrawer in our relationship as far as conversation or disagreements. I'm like, oh, get me out of here, you know? And so he will say like, thanks for staying. Like, I love you for staying and being present. And so, yeah, even on times that we're not
at odds with each other.
Yeah. We try and still like come up with something that we are grateful for about each other.
And sometimes you have to kind of swallow your pride and humble yourself to do that. So it's been a great
tell us about that, because I think that's a primary problem in any relationship, whether it's a marriage or a work relationship. And yes, we focus on marriage or living, people who live together as if married. But this is applicable for all relationships. What do you do to swallow your pride? Like, how is there a process that you think about, or is there something you do, just a habit? Like, how do you do that? Because for some people, it's very difficult, and that creates wedges in the relationships that last for long periods of time.
I think for a lot of people, it's really hard to do that because just human nature, we don't want to admit that we're wrong.
Right.
And we would rather be right than be nice, or rather be right than change things. And so that's really hard. But one of the ways that I have been learning to do this, and I think it's brought up in the book about crucial conversations, that you have to ask yourself, what do I really want here? Do I want this to get resolved? And if I do, how is the best way to get that resolved? And it's usually calming down and being neutral as you resolve it. And so to be neutral, you have to kind of swallow yourself sometimes.
Yeah.
So there's that.
A lot of times, if you think that, you realize that you both want the same thing, you just have a different way of getting there. So again, like he is more of the pursuer. He wants to solve the problem, and I'm usually one that withdraws. And so let's see, I kind of lost my train of thought.
Well, and
Swallowing your pride.
sometimes, like when you're withdrawing, you have to swallow your pride too, because that's not really what you want. You don't want to create distance in your
Right.
relationship. You have to calm down and come back. And I can see that that's hard too.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the key is keeping the bigger picture. A lot of people, they will argue over something, and it could be something stupid, something little, and they will get mad at the issue in order to attack their partner, or to maybe they felt hurt, so they want to hurt their partner type deal. But they're not keeping their mind on the big picture. They're not keeping their mind on their relationship, the thing that really matters the most. It's going to make the most fulfillment in their life. And I think a big key, and like you guys were saying, is swallowing your pride, is seeing that big picture. A lot of couples, they struggle with attacking the other person instead of fixing the issue, and that's where it gets dangerous, and that's where we fall apart. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, sometimes we don't even know what the real issue is. We know we're upset, but we may not even remember, but we don't even know, like, okay, we're fighting about the toilet paper roll being put on the wrong way. But what it really comes down to is maybe it's just somebody feels disrespected.
Yes.
And so if you stop and you say, okay, the toilet paper roll is like the smoke, and the disrespect is the actual fire, then sometimes you have to dive down to get to that. So
Oh, I love that. And just so you guys know, we resolved that by year 2. She ended up doing what I wanted. She didn't care. She didn't have a preference. I did ask her, I said, please put it this direction so that it's hanging off instead of touching the wall.
I'm with
She's
you.
done it ever since.
JC is amazing.
She's a sweet woman.
Yeah, really, I just hadn't really thought about it very much. Didn't care, so it wasn't a big deal for us. But
it's kind of nice.
Some people that is. So
yeah.
So tell us then. So your beginning of your relationship, you got married. How was your first year of your marriage, and then maybe how was your second and third year of marriage compared to how it is now? What are maybe I don't really talk about the honeymoon phase, because usually it's just so wonderful and grand. But for some couples, maybe it's not so wonderful and grand. I've never asked you guys this before, but how was your first year of marriage, your second, your third, compared to what it is now? What were the pros? What were the cons? How have you grown? What things have, what have you benefited? What have you learned in your relationship?
I think our relationship now is maybe more mature, but
okay.
I do feel like, for us, I feel like we were pretty blessed to have a pretty good first few years of marriage. Like I remember after the first year thinking, well, people say this is the hardest year of your life. Like, we're in good shape. Like, this
Wasn't
is
that
gonna
bad.
be, this is gonna be really fun, And I would say it wasn't until like probably when we moved away to grad school. I think the first few years of our marriage, we were connected very well. We continued to serve each other and do all of the things that brought love and happiness and joy. And we went down to Las Vegas for grad school, and we were away from family, and we really had to just rely on each other. We experienced infertility for 6 years, and so that was something that was really hard for both of us. And because of that, it actually also kind of propelled us together instead of apart. I know a lot of trials
Cool.
propel you apart, but for us, that was something that we really
We didn't
really
really
cleaved
have
to
other
each other.
people to go to because we were so far away. I
and it's
mean,
such a personal thing too, like, and something not
Yeah.
everyone can relate with. And
we had to bond together and stuff like that.
so but also during that time, like, Nick was going to school full time, I was the one working, so kind of traditional roles were a little bit switched. And so that came with a little bit of like, okay, if I'm working, you've got to help out at home more, you gotta, so there was always some of those like discussions that were happening. But
Yeah, like how you load the dishwasher.
yeah.
Because I was doing it all the time, and I have a way of doing it, and
Mhm.
yeah, it may or may not be the best way.
So yeah, those first few years were all really awesome. I think our relationship changed the most just having kids, which is probably common to a lot of people. And we didn't have kids for 6 years after our marriage, so we had a lot of time to know each other really well before we had kids. And so I wouldn't say that kids made our relationship bad, it just made it different,
Mhm.
And so, but we always tried to keep the things that had worked before going, like the 3 reasons we love each other. And we always
Yeah.
would take time to pray together every day.
Every night before bed.
Yeah, we always feel times when we do that, and that's just a physical touch connection that we can, say like, okay, we're good, right? Like.
But we've also done little things too, like we make sure that we still have date nights, and we've gone on mini moons or trips for our anniversary, and we've made time to study marriage, and we've taken a lot of classes and read a lot of books together, and we've been able to keep doing things that would fortify our marriage.
But I think, like, same with having kids, like, that's where things changed a lot, because I was kind of one of those like nervous moms that never wanted my kids to go to anyone. And I think we took like our first trip one overnight trip when our oldest was like 2 years old. Like, I wouldn't leave her before that. Like, and so we just had to be more creative, because I'm kind of stuck to my kids a lot.
It's a good thing.
So that kind of changed things quite a bit. But I feel like we're really blessed too, because we're pretty different, like you said, with you and JC. Like, he's obviously a lot more outspoken. I would rather just be in the background. When Nick said that we were going to do this in video, I'm like, oh no, like.
Oh, thank you for saying yes.
Yeah.
But so we have a lot of differences, but I don't know. I always just feel like we're yin and yang. Like, we just kind of we try and make that a strength.
Yeah, we balance each other out.
Oh, I like that.
But because
That's
we're so
powerful.
different, of course, we have completely different ideas about things all the time.
But sometimes, I mean, that's good, because I think that I've really been able to calm down on a lot of things, and Sarah's been able to come up in a lot of things. And so it really has balanced us out. And especially like where we're at now with running the clinic, like it's so amazing to have Sarah's perspective, because I'm often the pedals in the relationship and she's the brakes. But if she didn't apply the brakes sometimes, I know we'd crash. And if I didn't apply the pedals sometimes,
We would get nowhere.
We would never go anywhere. So yeah, it works.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. And I think another thing that I really liked is that we've noticed throughout the years that there's times where we've just had to be cheerleaders for each other. That there's times where Sarah's down and I have to be like, come on, you can do this. This is, we'll get through this. And there's times where I've been really down and low too, and she's the hand reaching out to hold me up and support me. And I think that's been a really neat thing to, look back in hindsight, because I think that Sarah has been my greatest cheerleader throughout all of the adventures and the ups and the downs.
See, that's really cool, because I know JC and I, we've tried other businesses in the past. We've tried things, and some things worked, most things failed. And I got really down with myself when I would ask her, say, hey, just support me. And I would think, because my love language, words of affirmation, just like, tell me I'm doing good. Tell me, do what I tell you to do, essentially is what I was doing. And then it dawned on me maybe 6-8 months ago. I know it's recent, but she's always been there for me. Like you were saying, she's always loved on me. She's always supported me. And it was me not seeing that, because she always gives to me, always loves on me. And I appreciate it. It's been a strength to keep me going through tough times, things that I'm afraid of doing. She's encouraged me to go through them, and just improved from there. We've just improved from there. But that's why you get in a relationship. Sorry, I hit the table. We get in a relationship because yes, we want to experience love and those things that we enjoy in the relationship that we give each other. But one of those things particularly is that support. You have that unconditional support. And that's what a good relationship should be about, is that unconditional support. And it's a two-way street, 100%, 100%.
Yeah,
that's cool.
Totally.
I think if you look back at like Adam and Eve, even like, she was designed to be a helpmeet to him. She was designed to, we have all these phrases that we talk about, like she was created with him and they were meant for each other. And through thick and thin, we should be supporting each other and helping each other become our best selves, because in reality, we're all partners. We're all not just like us, like business partners, but we're partners in the rest of our lives, being able to help each other and pull each other up and keep each other going.
I like that. So, did you have a question? Am I interrupting you?
I had a comment.
Okay, go ahead with your comment, then I have a question.
Okay, I was just going to say, it's neat to see how you guys work together and, like you said, balance each other out. He's stronger in some things and Sarah's stronger in other things, and you work together and help each other in different situations. And we do the same thing, and it's neat to see you working together, even though you're so different in some things.
Yeah.
I forgot where I was going with that.
No, you're good. That's perfect, because that goes right into my question. You working together and you're becoming one. I like how you said you've toned down, you've sped her up, you've toned him down, and that becoming one. And I think there's a huge power in becoming one. And I don't think a lot of couples get that compared to the ones that do. I think for everyone that gets in a relationship, that we have the yearning stage, then the earning stage, and then I don't know what you'd call the last stage, but like the heavenly stage, where you guys are one, you're living in that power. And everyone knows the yearning stage. We see Hollywood movies. It's the dating years, and maybe the first couple of years of marriage. And then we kind of get used to each other, get into that monotony, what we saw our parents doing. We kind of start living like that, and we get into that earning stage. We're earning each other's love, if you will. And a lot of people, that's as far as they get. That's as far as they get. And you guys seem to be getting really close to this oneness, I wanted to ask you, and I don't know how to phrase this, but can you talk about your being one together? And if that's putting you on the spot, I'll think of another question, because I'm not quite sure how to word this, but I think that is so important. That's something that JC and I are striving for, to be one. If we have a decision to make, we talk to each other, but a lot of times, because we're familiar with each other, we've lived around each other, we're in very much an agreement. And if we're not in an agreement, we're good at talking to each other about the differences and coming out with something. And for us, there has not been an issue where we have not been decided together with. Like in the past, I've done things that have hurt us, but that has helped us to grow or whatever, as far as growing. But right now, this whole last year, I think, because this has been a significant priority for us, we have really grown as one. And I don't do things behind her back to her. Like, I don't go buy a motorcycle, that she's afraid of me having, doesn't want me to have. We talk about things now. We have that open communication. I feel like we're getting closer to that oneness. But you guys, we've been 7 years married. You got 10 years on us. Can you talk about that oneness at all? Or is there not much to talk about that?
One thing that I thought about when you mentioned that was, I think the first thing for me that's helpful is just recognizing our strengths do make us more one. So or our weaknesses. Like, for example, I was talking to a friend one day when Nick was ready to move forward on this business thing that I wasn't ready for. And I was telling this friend, I feel so bad that I am not letting him have this dream, or I'm the one that's pushing the brakes or whatever. And she just said, Sarah, you're like helping him see all of these things. Like, what you're feeling bad about being is actually such a strength and such a blessing to him that you don't even realize. And so once I started seeing like the things that I thought were weaknesses of mine as strengths in our partnership, it helped me to be like just more okay with our differences. I think a lot of people get stuck on their differences as being a negative thing. And I know I do sometimes, but honestly, like overall, I feel like our differences make us stronger together.
Yeah.
I like that.
And I think too, like there's a lot of times in our lives when we haven't worked really well together. And maybe I just heard this the other day that I thought was really cool. He said, this guy that I was listening to said, my hope doesn't come from where we're going. It comes from what I'm looking back and realizing. And that's applicable here. Like, I feel like looking back on even the experiences that we've had where we haven't been one, where we haven't done really well in our relationship, I can see now that those things have helped me and helped us to be able to be where we are today. And so sometimes we have to have that perspective that even if things are rough right now, maybe this is the rocky road that propels us to the right road that leads us to where we want to be. Sometimes our struggles, even in our relationship or just in life, are just part of the pathway. And we have to enjoy the journey, if you will, because we just have to learn some of these lessons the hard way. That's just how we are. And if we can look back on that later on and go, oh, I needed that so that I could learn this, so that I could do this today, having that perspective. And for some of us, having that perspective might be like journaling or things like that. Others can sit and just kind of reflect back on that. But a lot of times we're just conversing. Remember when we were going through that and it felt so dark, but now here we are today. And do we realize now that that was propelling us? And I think that, there's a lot of things that we can look back on in life and see that. So.
That's awesome. I love that. I love that.
I don't want to give the assumption that we're like, have this perfect marriage.
No, and I don't think you have, because you've talked about struggles you've had.
Yeah.
And how you've worked through them and good habits. So
I think ultimately we've always just wanted to try to support each other. Like, I'm thinking of a time when, with the birth of each of our babies, I struggled the whole pregnancy, the whole delivery, the whole postpartum, and I needed Nick to be there. Our last baby ended up being in the NICU for a while, and
Ooh.
I just couldn't, I like needed him next to me the whole time. And, you know, like we just have learned that we need each other. Like that's how we're better, we're better together. We're better together than we are apart. Lots of people, like, I feel like, I don't know if they have pride in it or whatever, but in being independent and in being,
Yeah, I
you
wanted to
know,
talk about that. Yep.
yeah. And I feel like I can be independent, but I don't want to. I want to be together. I want to lift each other. I want to
always
support
better.
each other.
It's always better together.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because I mean, when things are going fine, it's easy to drift apart, and then there's this commotion. But then when you really do separate, and we've watched a lot of our friends do this that have struggled in their marriages, when they do separate, then they're like, man, I didn't realize all of these things that now I have to do all by myself. And then, you know, they'll go through some major life catastrophe or something like that, and they have to do it alone. And as dark as it's been for me in some of the darkest moments of my life, I've had Sarah there. I've had her there. And I don't know if I would have made it through without Sarah there in some of those. And so just having somebody there, like Sarah, that even though our relationship hasn't been perfect, she's been there for me.
And I love that. Talking about this, you know, we're born into this life, and immediately I learned this in massage school when I was going to be certified as a massage therapist, that babies, if they don't have that connection, and that connection is given through touch, it's given through feeding. If they don't have that connection with a human being, they will stunt their growth, and they will actually die if that persists. It's very high mortality rate for babies that don't have that connection. And it's not like we grow up and that goes away. Like you were saying, Sarah, there's kind of this pride going out there, like, I fight my battles on my own, or, you know, I'm this alpha male or alpha female, or whatever the females are called. I don't know. But there's like this pride with it. But always whenever I think of pride stems from trauma. You know, you've been hurt, and so you're behaving this way so you don't get hurt again. It's a defense tactic, and it doesn't serve you, and it doesn't serve your partner in the relationship. And we all need connection. Now, I'm not saying, you know, connect with someone and let them walk all over you, but the connection and that love, that trust, that we have to have that. Like, that is a need. Yeah, we have Pavlov's hierarchy of needs, and that's not classified on there, but it should be, because that's a base need. We do have to have each other. And you know, I know some family members who live by themselves, or maybe they live with others, but they don't have real strong relationships. They're hidden away, if you will, from people. And when I do talk with them, which is not very often, and it's because they're not open, then they don't, like, you can feel the pain. You can feel that they're in pain, and that they're living with this consistently, and slowly it's draining them, and if you will, it's killing them. Because it really is. This we're born into this life, and connection is an immediate need that we all have. That's why we have relationships. It's not just the thing that everyone's doing. It's a need.
Yeah,
I agree. And I think that, you know, you get these little one-liners, and one of them comes to mind, that you choose your love, and then you love your choice.
Yeah.
That's what we're supposed to do. Like, you know, early on, it's really easy to say, oh, I love this person and I choose her. And then from there on out, the only other thing to do is love your choice.
Yeah.
And you can choose not to do that, but it's
your choice.
We've all been alone before, and
Yeah.
being together is way better.
Well,
yeah.
Even with deciding to be business partners and stuff like that, like I was ready to be part of that part of his life. You know, I wanted to know what he was, not just know what he was doing, but like I wanted to experience the joy that he feels working with the kids he works with. I wanted to, I don't know, I just had a desire to be part of that world with him. And it's been so awesome. Like, I'm kind of jealous that he's been doing this for however many years he's doing it. You know, like
Tell us
love-
what he's been doing.
I'll tell you what he's been doing. He just plays all day. That's all he does.
That is
True. With
awesome.
kids,
With
mostly.
kids. Yes.
Sometimes with adults.
Yeah. So yeah, he's an occupational therapist, a pediatric occupational therapist. And what he does looks a lot like playing all day.
Yeah, it's play with a purpose, and it's directed play, but it's play nonetheless.
And it's just really neat to see the progress of kids and to be able to connect with families. Like I love just going in the waiting room and talking to parents and really, you talk about relationships, like connecting with them in a way that I can as a mom to these other moms that are experiencing difficulties with children with special needs. We don't have a lot of personal, what am I trying to say? We don't have a child necessarily with a special
Mhm.
needs like autism or Down syndrome or anything like that, but we have a daughter with feeding difficulties, and so she does feeding therapy at our clinic. And to be able to relate with those moms and be like, I know what it's like when they're screaming all through the whole meal, or like just, I don't know, to make those connections, those relationships has been really fulfilling too. So
Well, that's cool. So maybe we can end with this, because I think this is applicable. Talking about this therapy that you guys do together, this business you have, and you're seeing a lot of results with these children that are probably very frustrated themselves. They've got these problems or issues, handicaps, if you will, that are hard to get through. And they're not only hard for the kids, but they're hard for the parents. And you giving that progress, I'm sure that helps the relationship with the kids, with the parents. But what do you think is key to helping the kids progress? What do you think is the primary, what opens them up? What helps them progress? What is that? Because I think that's applicable to all relationships, what you're doing here.
Yeah, I think it all goes back to why we started the clinic in the first place. And our why is that we love them. We love these kids that come in, and they know it, and we love what we do with them. We love the therapy that we're doing, and we're trying to create a culture of love and kindness at the clinic. And so a lot of the kids love coming and they hate leaving. And a lot of the families have commented that they enjoy being in our clinic because it feels different. And I know that that's because they feel that we love them, that it's small enough of a business that they know us and they can feel that we love them. So it all goes back to how much love can you actually give?
it's true. And it's kind of like that thing that they say, like, I remember when I was having our second baby, like, can I really love this baby as much as I love my first? And like I only have this much love, you think, and then it just multiplies, right? And so that's how I feel about our clinic family. It's like our employees and our staff, like everyone, it's just like that love just multiplies. Of anything, I would say that's probably the hardest thing about the clinic is just that my heart is so big that it can be broken easily. Like when they're struggling, I'm struggling. When they're having a hard time, I'm having a hard time. And same with Nick. Like when they're not able to make progress, or if they're like, you know, in the hospital because of a certain thing, like that pulls at our heartstrings. So, I mean, initially when we opened the clinic, that was like, we sat down and said, like, what is our why? Why are we doing this? And that was the word, was love. That's why.
And I love that. And I love that you brought up the environment, because a lot of people that I've talked to and worked with myself, I know myself growing up, suppression, felt suppressed, didn't feel free, didn't feel like I could behave certain ways. And in some ways, it's important to learn the boundaries that society has set, so you're not doing things that are crazy or radical or not allowed. You shouldn't do it. And that's important in those areas. But I feel like a lot of growing up, I was suppressed in a lot of things. And a lot of people I talk to, when we unlock certain things in them, a lot of that comes from the environment of love, because it's a safe environment. And like you said, they said, it feels different. It feels different. And when you're consistently creating that in any relationship, that's conducive to a very whole and fulfilling relationship, because you can be free, your partner can be free, your kids can be free. Yes, there's boundaries. You're not going to let people walk on you. You're not going to let yourself walk on other people. You have those boundaries, but you've created that environment. You've set that up, and people understand each other. I understand you, you understand me, and we're free. We're free to be who we are. And that's so huge and conducive.
We try and ask ourselves that question a lot, like, what's the loving thing to do in this situation? And sometimes the loving thing to do is say, no, we can't provide that service for free.
Oh, yeah, yeah, for sure.
And sometimes the loving thing to do is say, you know what, this one's on us. And sometimes, it's like you said, you can have a boundary, but you can also show love. And so that with employees, it's always our thought, like, what's the loving thing to do in this situation? And we're not perfect at it. We make mistakes just like we do in our marriage. We try really hard because we do care so much about the people that we serve. So,
well, and you can't, if you start hurting yourself and trying to help others, pretty soon you can't help others. And that's just how it is. You can't put salt in a sugar cookie and expect it to taste sweet if you don't put sugar in the sugar cookie, right? We have boundaries. There are things that we have to have in life, in our relationship. And when we have these boundaries set in place, it becomes a lot easier to be free and to love and to be ourselves. I love that. I love that. Is there anything else you want to add before we close out?
Just move with love.
Just move with love.
And then that love multiplies, right?
Yeah.
Yes,
Focus on it,
you're
and it
blessed.
keeps growing and getting more.
Exactly. You're blessed with more. You think you can't love more, and then you're blessed with more love.
Then you're blessed with more love.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that. I love that. Well, thank you. Thank you guys for being on the show, Nick and Sarah. We'll have to have you on again in the future, see how your business is doing, what's going on.
Tell new stories.
Thank you. Yeah. And for those of our listeners out there, thank you for tuning in today. Hopefully there's been some nuggets that you found. Hopefully you're encouraged. Maybe do these like the Sidwells do, where they encourage each other by telling things that they're grateful for, the 3 things at night. I think that's so powerful. I think we need to start doing that. She's really good at that, and I need to probably do better at that. And I love that. I love this. So hopefully it's been good for the listeners out there. And with that, I hope you do make your best relationship. I wish you success and much love. We'll see you guys.